When it comes to the job of parenting, there's not a lot out there that is much worse than watching your little one, your baby, your infant, your toddler. Even as they get older, it really doesn't get too much easier. But especially when our kids are little, watching them get sick, watching them struggle with maybe an ear infection, sinus infection, something regarding, the chest and the lungs, and a deep cough that they just can't kick. It's just one of those things that lots of little ones will go through, and unfortunately, they tend to go through it a lot of times because teething, seasonal changes, growth spurts, these are all natural parts of the immune system and the respiratory system, and just your little one's health maturing and getting stronger. But in today's world, because we have what we call the perfect storm, which is factors ahead of time that cause a child's nervous system, immune system, respiratory system to be weakened, to be more susceptible. And because we live in a crazy, toxic, stressful world where more of this stuff comes into our kids' systems and can create this inflammation and challenge, our little ones are sick more often, more severely than ever before. So that brings the problem that this video is going to really dive deep into to the forefront for more families than ever before. Antibiotics. More importantly, the overuse, the misuse of antibiotics. It's a real important topic that is talked about some out there in healthcare, talked about some out there in the traditional media and social media and so forth. But holy heck, when you dive into the science and the research and the reality of how big of a factor it is in the development of chronic illness in kids, it's something that should be talked about 10 times more than it is right now. And it's something you as parents definitely deserve to know because the research is clear. And in fact, the research has been clear for about 2 to 3 decades that the use of antibiotics for traditional infections, so ear infections, sinus infections, and respiratory infections, are almost always not effective. We've known that pediatricians should use what's called watch and wait with ear infections and respiratory infections because most of them are viral. Most of them aren't even the virus isn't really the problem. It's the body's compromised plumbing, drainage, and neuroimmune function that allows the virus to set up, to create the mucus, to create the congestion, to create the inflammation, which then eventually could be called an infection. And that's when most of the time antibiotics show up. Because if you're at the urgent care or the minute clinic or the pediatrician, when you work in that environment and all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so still today, despite this research showing, hey, there's better clinical protocols. The AAP says it, the CDC says it. I mean, it's been around that we shouldn't put antibiotics into little kids so often, especially, but not much has changed. As a result, what has changed? We have a massive rise in asthma, allergies, autism, ADHD, anxiety, and those are just the A's. So chronic autoimmune, chronic neurodevelopmental challenges. And here's what parents deserve to know. It's clearly proven that early exposure to antibiotics increases risks of all those conditions, not just immune-based conditions where you may have learned about this topic already and how the gut and the immune system and antibiotics get in there and they kill off all the good guys while they're trying to kill off the bad guys. That is part of this neurophysiological pathway that leads to this increased incidence of autoimmune stuff like asthma and allergies. But did you know about the connections to autism and ADHD? And here's why. Because the nervous system, which is really stressed, really out of balance in kiddos with autism, ADHD, and anxiety, the nervous system relies on the body to be not so bothersome, not so stressful. And so when the gut and the immune system have havoc wreaked upon it from antibiotics early on in life, well, that stresses out the brain. There's something called a gut-brain connection. So there's huge risk factors involved with antibiotics in little kids especially, and later on in life, them struggling with those conditions. Obesity has also been linked to early use of antibiotics because it leaves a child's gut and inflammatory pathways all messed up. The disruption of what's called the gut microbiome is a big deal. And so it'd be one thing if these antibiotics, the vast majority of the time, were being used in a very straightforward way. Man, We know for sure that's a bacterial infection. We know that would actually only be clinical criteria number 1 for use of antibiotics. Number 2, not only is it a bacterial infection, but we can look at this kid's case right now, individual, because goodness, here's the problem with healthcare and a conventional pediatrician. Nothing is individualized. Nothing is personalized to the child. Everybody gets this cookie cutter flowchart approach. But if we looked at it and said, okay, your child has a bacterial infection, but is their body strong enough? Can we support their body naturally? Can we get the natural defenses that God gave our kids in their nervous system, in their immune system, in their digestive system? Is that working well enough, strong enough that the body could get rid of this infection on its own? And right here is the last most important part I want to make with important take-home point, action point I want to make with this video. What if we could not only count on that to just kind of genetically, innately be there, because it is. We have literal immune boosting programming passed down from generations. Viruses and bacteria, for the most part, aren't new. Our kids, even when they're little and they have these immature systems, they're ready to battle their microbiome, their nervous system, their neuroimmunological, I'll say it right here, their neuroimmunological genetic code. Bit of a tongue twister there. It's in there. We should be able to count on it. So not only is it naturally, innately, genetically in there, what if there's things we could do to boost it and support it? And so whether you're watching this on our local practice page, PWC Chiropractic, or you're watching this on the pxdocs platform, which is a big part of my life, getting this information out to parents everywhere with hope, answers, and drug-free help like this discussion. So giving them choices outside of just antibiotics and medications every single time, there is stuff we can do to improve the function of our kid's body. And you can find on our website what we call Nature's Medicine Cabinet or our Raising Healthy Kids Naturally Playbook. Those are both great resources. If you want those resources and you don't want to go poke around the website, don't worry, just comment below. Say, hey, give me that playbook, give me that Nature's Medicine Cabinet or Raising Healthy Kids playbook and PDF, and we'll get it to you, because that's what antibiotics do. They don't really get to the root cause of what they're used for the vast majority of the time. And again, this isn't me saying it as a pediatric chiropractor who you may think, yeah, you're on that side of the fence. That's your interpretation. No, this is medical research. Medical guidelines is what I'm reporting on with this video. And on the website, again, you can read the article about the overuse of antibiotics, and you can see all the research citations in there. So the challenge with those elements are the long-term challenge. But real quick, just rip through these because they're important too. Antibiotics also have risk of allergic reactions, building antibiotic resistance over time, so that maybe when your child would really need them from a big injury or a challenge later on in life, now that antibiotic or that whole class of antibiotics may not be that effective for your child. And it's actually a global health threat as well, because this problem that we're applying primarily for you, the mom or the dad watching it, to your child, apply it to millions of kids over the last generation or 2 generations, maybe 3 generations, where we've overused antibiotics. And the data on that, once again, is just super clear. And that is all adding up to a real, actual pandemic and overusing antibiotics, where this antibiotic resistance is bigger than ever before, and a real crisis and a real threat. And we've got kids sicker than ever before because of all the things we covered with how it suppresses and creates imbalance into their immune system, their gut, and their nervous system. So while antibiotics will always continue to be life-saving, we can't get done with this video without saying that, when used appropriately. And the way I work is I have a son, Oliver, who was saved by medicine, saved by antibiotics, saved by surgery, saved by the best of things in emergency medicine. And antibiotics firmly belong there, and they always will. We want them. We need them. Thank God literally for them. But that doesn't mean the old adage, too much of a good thing isn't a real thing. And we've taken this thing that was discovered a couple generations ago, and we've completely overused it for our kids especially, and now it's really messing with the health of this generation of kids. And if we don't turn this tide, well, then we're going to mess up that genetic code going forward as well. And so if this video suits and fits the philosophy, if you will, of your family, and you want antibiotics and medications as a last resort, last choice for your kiddos, well, then do what I already kind of talked about here in this video. Go to our website, read more about this, learn more about this, comment below if you want our Nature's Medicine Cabinet and Raising Healthy Kid guides, Raising Healthy Kids Naturally, keyword in that guide, and we'll get it to you. Get more information. Get empowered, moms and dads. This is information you don't just deserve to know. I honestly think you need to know this, because making these decisions is something you should have an empowered, educated, informed doctor on your team helping you make that decision. So if you feel like your doctor just always turns to medications, always turns to antibiotics, find a new one. Okay, find a new holistic, more naturally minded pediatrician or family doctor, and then also maybe add this kind of doctor to your team, a neurologically focused pediatric chiropractor who, in the thick of this video, we talked about supporting the body instead of suppressing symptoms. That's the job of a pediatric chiropractor, and they do it wonderfully. So same as on the website, you can get information and articles and the playbooks and the PDFs. You can also get access either to our office if you're local, PwC Chiropractic, or to offices that we have trained and we trust all over the place through our pxdocs network. Get to the website, get the information, get to the website, go to the directory, plug in your city and state, find your local pxdoc so that you can have natural health boosting short-term and long-term options first for your family and save antibiotics for last and emergency situations only.